You gave him everything. Your love, your loyalty, your late night texts, your soft voice when he was stressed, the way you showed up when no one else did. And still, he walked away, like you were disposable. But let me tell you something that every woman needs to hear. The version of you he walked away from will never be the woman he gets again. He didn't lose you because you weren't enough. He lost you because he couldn't recognize gold while he had it in his hands. But that's not your burden to carry anymore. Right now, you're not going to beg. You're not going to chase. You're going to rise. Because when a woman finally stops explaining her worth, when she chooses silence over convincing, when she replaces overthinking with glowing, that's when the regret hits. Hard, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in those quiet, sleepless moments when your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did. This isn't about revenge. This is about showing him what loss really feels like. It's about becoming so magnetic, so self-assured, so untouchable, that he realizes exactly what he fumbled, and he won't even have the access to apologize. If you've been crying, overthinking, wondering if he misses you, pause, breathe, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand how to shift the power dynamic in your favor. You're not going to react emotionally. You're going to move differently, in silence, in elegance, in strength. And trust me, that is what will haunt him most. Let's start turning your pain into power, because he's going to regret ever losing a woman like you. Most women are taught to see a breakup as a failure, that if a relationship ends, it means you weren't good enough, pretty enough, or valuable enough to keep him. And that thinking, it's exactly what keeps you stuck in pain long after he's gone. But let me tell you something that'll shift your entire perspective. A breakup isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your evolution. Because here's the truth, you cannot heal if your mindset is still wired around the loss. If you're constantly asking, why wasn't I enough? Or how do I make him miss me? You're giving your power away. You're handing him the steering wheel of your self-worth. And he already showed you he doesn't know how to drive it. The shift happens when you stop asking, how do I get him back? And start asking, how do I get myself back? It's when you stop seeing yourself as the woman who was left and start becoming the woman who walked away from chaos, confusion, breadcrumbs, inconsistency. Not because she stopped loving, but because she started valuing herself more. Do you know how powerful it is when a woman stops begging for clarity and becomes her own closure? That's the moment he starts feeling the loss. Not when you send long texts, not when you post to get his attention, but when you disappear, not just from his phone, but from the energy that once kept him centered. It's time to shift your mindset from wounded to wise, from heartbreak to high value. You don't need revenge, you need rebirth. You need to become so focused on your peace, your goals, your glow up, that he feels the weight of your absence more than he ever valued your presence. This is when you flip the game, not with drama, not with manipulation, but with silence, growth, and self-respect. The kind of transformation that doesn't beg for attention, it commands it. And don't think for a second that he won't notice. He will. He'll scroll through your social media, reread old messages, ask mutual friends about you. He'll wonder why you're so calm, so unbothered, so focused. That's when regret settles in, when the woman he thought would always be there becomes the one he can no longer reach. So today, choose the shift. Choose to stop defining yourself by the man who didn't know how to love you. Start defining yourself by the woman you're about to become, powerful, radiant, whole, not because of him, not for him, but in spite of him. This breakup isn't your breakdown, it's your breakthrough. And it starts the moment you decide your story no longer revolves around him. It revolves around you. At first he won't feel it. He'll distract himself, texting other women, hanging out with the boys, scrolling, swiping, laughing like nothing ever happened. That's his ego talking. That's the part of him that believes you'll still be there if he ever decides to come back. Because that's what most women do. Wait around, hoping, hurting, keeping the door open just in case he figures it out. But the truth is, men don't process loss the way women do. While you're feeling everything immediately, the pain, the confusion, the self-doubt, he's numb, detached, unbothered. Until one day, something shifts. And that shift usually happens after you've moved on, after you've stopped reaching out, after you've stopped orbiting around his world. That's when the silence starts to echo. He starts to wonder why you're not posting cryptic quotes anymore, why you're not liking his stories, why your energy, the warmth, the softness, the presence he once took for granted is completely gone. And that's when the discomfort begins. Because a high-value woman doesn't chase. She doesn't compete. She disappears with dignity. He'll remember your voice, your scent, the way you used to look at him like he was the only man in the world. He'll compare every woman he meets to you, but they won't have your depth, your softness, your presence. He'll start to realize he didn't just lose a woman, he lost the woman. Regret creeps in quietly. In the moments he's alone, in the silence after a meaningless hookup, in the song that reminds him of a night you once shared. It's not loud, it's slow. And it builds. Because a high-value woman doesn't just leave a man's life, she leaves a mark, one that no one else can erase. What men feel after losing a high-value woman isn't just regret, it's confusion, it's disbelief, it's that sick feeling in the pit of their stomach when they realize the bridge has burned and you're not looking back. He'll start romanticizing what he once overlooked. He'll replay memories he didn't value at the time, and he'll crave a second chance, not because he's ready to love you right, but because he now realizes what he threw away. But by then, you won't be the same woman he left. You'll be stronger, softer in a different way, focused, selective. Your energy will no longer be a gift handed out freely. It'll be a privilege he no longer qualifies for. That's the weight of losing a high-value woman. It's not instant, it's haunting. And the worst part for him, watching you glow without him, watching you heal without bitterness, watching you become everything he thought he could replace, only to realize, far too late, he can't. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Distance is not indifference. Distance is discipline. When a high-value woman goes quiet, it's not because she has nothing to say, it's because she no longer sees the point in speaking to someone who chose not to listen. And that silence, it's louder than any paragraph you could ever send. It rings in his ears, it lingers in his thoughts. It forces him to sit with the absence of what he once took for granted. Most men expect drama after a breakup. They expect calls, texts, breakdowns, late-night emotional spirals. They're prepared for it. It feeds their ego. It reassures them that you still care, that you're still emotionally tied to them. But when you go silent, when you back all the way up and let the space speak for you, that's when the power shifts completely. Silence makes him question everything. Was she really that hurt? Is she over me? Has she moved on? Why isn't she reacting? That mystery, that unknown, it's what keeps him stuck. Because men are not wired to sit comfortably in emotional confusion. They'll chase clarity. They'll chase closure. But when you don't give it to him, he starts to spiral in his own mind. And that's exactly where the regret begins to grow. Distance creates perspective. It gives you room to see the situation for what it truly was, not what your feelings wanted it to be. And it gives him space to see what he lost without your energy constantly reminding him of your presence. When you're no longer showing up, no longer initiating, no longer responding, he starts to feel the weight of your withdrawal. Not immediately, but over time. And that time, it becomes a mirror, one he can't escape from. You don't need to announce that you're healing. You don't need to prove that you're unbothered. True strength doesn't post about how done you are. True strength vanishes. It rebuilds in silence. It levels up in the shadows. And by the time he realizes the value of what he had, you've already become a version of yourself that would never tolerate what he offered in the first place. Silence protects your peace. Distance honors your worth. Every time you want to reach out, remember, your absence teaches what your presence never could. And when you stop showing up for someone who expected you to stay, no matter how poorly they treated you, you force them to finally feel the consequence of their own actions. Let the silence speak. Let the distance build. Because while you're sitting quietly, leveling up, glowing in private, he's sitting with a growing ache, a question that won't go away, and the sinking realization that you're no longer within reach. And that is the power he never expected you to have. Regret is not just an emotion. It's a consequence. It's not something you force with words or manipulation. Real regret comes from impact, from the realization that someone once had access to something powerful, something rare, and lost it through their own negligence. When you stop chasing, stop explaining, and stop trying to be understood, you activate emotional triggers in a man that make him reflect. and that reflection is where the regret begins. The first emotional trigger is your absence. Not just physical absence, but emotional detachment. When he can no longer feel your energy, when your name stops popping up on his screen, when your attention disappears completely, it creates a void, and the male ego, which thrives on knowing someone still cares, starts to panic in that silence. That panic quickly morphs into curiosity, and then into realization. Another trigger is your glow, not just a physical glow-up, though that absolutely matters, but an energetic one. When you start looking happier, lighter, more focused, more aligned, and he can see that you're doing it without him, it stings. Why? Because part of him expected you to crumble without his presence. But instead you're thriving, quietly, powerfully. And that contrast between who you were when he left and who you've become since, that contrast triggers his regret on a soul-deep level. Then there's the trigger of replacement, not necessarily dating someone new. Sometimes it's even more powerful when you're not. When you replace him with self-love, with peace, with a purpose bigger than him, it shows him that he wasn't your whole world, that he was just a chapter, and the story is still unfolding without him. That realization is humbling, and it cuts deeper than any words ever could. Another powerful trigger is your indifference. Not coldness, not anger, just calm, quiet detachment. When he sees that he no longer affects you, that your emotions aren't reactive, that your mood doesn't shift based on his presence or absence, that's when he starts to feel powerless. Men want to feel in control, but when a woman no longer responds to their actions, that control is gone, and the regret rushes in to fill the gap. The final trigger, time, because time exposes everything. Time makes him watch you evolve while he stays stuck. It makes him realize that the door he once thought would always be open is now locked, and he no longer has the key. Regret doesn't hit right after breakup. It hits when you've already healed, when your energy has leveled up, when he's finally ready, and you're no longer available. So don't chase, don't prove, don't explain. Let your silence, your growth, your glow, trigger the very regret he thought he'd never feel. Because the woman who once cried for him is now the woman he cries about. There's something about mystery that pulls people in deeper than explanation ever could. And when it comes to making a man regret losing you, it's not about telling him what he lost. It's about making him feel it in the silence of not knowing. That's the power of mystery. And most women underestimate it. They think they have to be loud about their glow up, post every move, prove a point. But the truth is, the less you say, the more he thinks. The less he knows, the more he obsesses. And the more you disappear from his radar, the more his mind starts to fill in the blanks. Mystery drives curiosity, and curiosity is the foundation of emotional pull. When you used to be an open book, always available, always explaining, always showing your cards, he felt in control. He knew where he stood. He knew you still cared. But now, he doesn't know what you're thinking. He doesn't know what you're doing. He doesn't know if you've moved on, if you're seeing someone else, if you even miss him. That uncertainty creates tension. It creates emotional pressure. And that pressure builds into regret, slowly but powerfully. The more a man has to guess, the more emotionally invested he becomes. And the mystery you create by pulling back, by not engaging, by not reacting, that becomes a mirror he can't turn away from. He starts replaying your last conversation, wondering if he missed a signal. He starts checking your stories, looking for signs. But you're not giving him anything. No reaction, no access, no explanations. And that's what keeps him stuck in his own head. Less is more because it makes your energy feel rare. And anything that feels rare feels valuable. You don't need to flaunt your progress. Let him wonder. Let him imagine. Let him sit with the reality that you are no longer emotionally available for him to lean on, vent to, or come back to when it's convenient. He will regret it, not just because you're gone, but because he doesn't know how to reach you anymore. Not emotionally, not mentally, not energetically. Mystery makes you unforgettable, because the human brain always craves closure, and when you deny him that, you become the what if that lingers. The maybe that haunts him. You become the woman he can't categorize, can't control, can't forget. And that's what leaves a permanent mark. Not what you say, not what you post, but what you withhold. So stop over-explaining. Stop proving your worth. Let the mystery do the work for you. Let your silence raise the questions he never thought he'd be asking. Because the woman who keeps him guessing is the woman he'll never fully get over. And once he realizes he can't read you anymore, that he doesn't have access to your thoughts, your heart, your life, that's when the regret sets in, and it never leaves. Men don't always respond to words, they respond to what they see. And nothing hits harder than watching a woman they once took for granted thrive in front of their eyes. That's the power of social proof. You don't have to say a thing. You just have to show through your energy, your growth, your evolution, that losing you was the biggest mistake he ever made. And he'll feel that loss, not because you told him, but because the world around him is showing it to him. When he sees you out there glowing, surrounded by people who value you, leveling up in your career, your looks, your mindset, that's when it starts to sting. It's not just about looking good, it's about showing him without saying a word that his presence was never the reason you thrived, that he was not your source, and his absence did nothing but push you further into your power. Social proof isn't about being petty or fake. It's about embodying your worth so boldly that others notice. It's about walking into rooms and commanding attention, not because you're trying to prove something to him, but because you finally remembered who you are. When other men start complimenting you, respecting you, chasing you, and he sees that, that's when it hits. Because validation from others reflects what he failed to appreciate. The worst kind of pain for a man who let go of a high-value woman is watching her become everything he thought she couldn't be without him. That pain hits even harder when others start treating her the way he never did. You don't need to flaunt it. The glow speaks for itself. The confidence, the peace, the joy that radiates when you're no longer trying to hold together something that wasn't meant for you. That's the kind of energy people notice, and it's the exact kind of energy that will haunt him. Even if he acts unbothered, trust this, he's watching. He might not like your posts, but he's watching. He might not reach out, but he's listening when your name comes up. Social proof isn't about rubbing your new life in his face. It's about letting your evolution speak for itself. The way you carry yourself, the way you move without bitterness, the way you rise without looking back. He'll see the comments, the reactions, the attention, the effortless glow, and he'll know, not because you told him, but because the evidence is right in front of him, that the woman he lost has now become the woman everyone else is wishing for. That's the kind of loss you don't get over. That's the kind of regret that lingers. And all you had to do was become exactly who you were meant to be, with no permission, no announcement, and absolutely no looking back. Leveling up isn't about revenge. It's about rebirth. It's not about proving someone wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And the most powerful part, you don't even need to say a word, because when a woman truly levels up, her actions speak volumes. Her energy shifts, her standards rise, her presence evolves. And anyone who once underestimated her feels that shift deeply. The first level up move that speaks louder than anything is detachment. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop overgiving to people who didn't protect your heart. It means you stop letting their absence control your mood. When you detach, you start pouring everything you once gave to them back into you. And that energy shift, it's magnetic. People feel it. He'll feel it. Next comes your glow up. And no, it's not just about makeup or a new outfit. Although there's nothing wrong with that. It's about how you start taking care of your body, your mind, your spirit. You walk differently when you love yourself. You look different when you're no longer stressed over someone who didn't see your worth. Your face softens. Your posture shifts. Your eyes stop searching, because now you're full from within. That glow, that's peace. And peace is powerful. Then there's discipline. That's the move most people underestimate. You stop giving out your time, energy, and access for free. You become intentional. You focus on your goals, your money, your growth. You make moves in silence. You say no more often. You value your time so much that anyone who wants a place in your life has to earn it. And when he sees that, when he realizes he no longer gets automatic access, that's when the regret starts to choke him. Another powerful level up move is silence. When you no longer feel the need to defend yourself, explain your growth, or respond to every trigger, You're no longer emotionally available for chaos. You respond with elegance. You walk away from anything that threatens your peace. That kind of restraint, that kind of maturity. It doesn't just speak, it roars. And the people who once had the power to shake you won't even recognize the version of you that's now unbothered. And finally, you build. You build your career, your confidence, your boundaries. You start creating a life so full that you don't need to be chosen, you do the choosing. And that's when everything shifts. When a woman stops waiting and starts building, she becomes unstoppable. She becomes the kind of woman that no man forgets, because she found her power, and she didn't need a single word to do it. So let them wonder, let them watch, let your growth speak louder than your pain ever did. Because the woman who rises in silence, focused and free, becomes the one they'll always remember, and the one they can never replace. There comes a moment when the pain stops being your identity and starts becoming your fuel. You've cried, questioned, doubted yourself more times than anyone knows. You bent until you almost broke, but you're still here. And now it's time to rise. Not for him, not for revenge, but for you, because you finally realized your worth was never tied to his ability to see it. You rise when you stop giving broken people permission to define you. You rebuild when you choose peace over chaos, silence over desperation, power over pity. You reclaim your voice by walking away without the closure you thought you needed, because real closure doesn't come from their explanation. It comes from your decision to never accept less than you deserve again. There is a version of you on the other side of this heartbreak who is strong, radiant, and untouchable. And she's not waiting for a text. She's not checking who watched her stories. She's not hoping to be chosen. She is the choice, and she moves like it. The truth is, healing doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like soft mornings, solo wins, private boundaries, and quiet self-respect. Sometimes it's not about being seen at all. It's about finally seeing yourself clearly, that woman in the mirror. She's not broken, she's rebuilding. And the next time someone steps into her life, they'll know she's not to be played with. So let this be your moment, your turning point. No more over-explaining, no more shrinking, no more begging to be understood. The version of you that tolerated the bare minimum is gone. What rises now is a woman who knows her value, protects her peace, and refuses to be anyone's second thought ever again. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your comeback. Rise, rebuild, reclaim, and let the world, especially him, witness the woman he'll never get the chance to lose again.